In a lot of ways, I don't think these things or social media or other modern technology is really making us worse. It's kind of just exposing what we already were. So let me tell you what I mean by that. Humans have done some pretty awful shit throughout history, right? Like, how could we get to the point where we think that committing mass genocide or killing off a bunch of people, enslaving people, is a good thing to do, is morally right? And yet, these things were morally acceptable for a large part of history. It's because under certain conditions and under certain societal standards, as long as these conditions are met and as long as we universally agree, oh yeah, these things are fine, then we're going to continue on doing them, and we're going to find some way to justify it as well. Despite these things being absolutely heinous to most of us, we find a way to say, oh, this is for a greater cause. It's because, my religion told me to, or I'm doing this to protect my own people. And sometimes, yeah, like the only option to protect your own people in a survival setting is to do bad things to other living beings, perhaps, but that's not even the conditions I'm really talking about. I'm just saying humans are capable of doing some pretty evil shit, right? And I think all of us are capable of doing evil. It doesn't mean we should, of course, but part of human nature, and this is something you got to understand and accept, part of human nature is kind of evil, If we really want to optimize every part of our existence and be the healthiest we can possibly be, I think you do have to be a little selfish. And that means you put less attention onto other people who have it worse than you sometimes. And that is selfish, and somebody there is getting the short end of the stick. Now, there are certain societies in which more people get the short end of the stick than others. And there are societies like the USA where people are very individualistic, and that's part of our culture, and that makes people be more selfish, and it fuels the current crises we're going through, like loneliness and dating not working too well right now. But regardless of what society you're in, some part of human nature is inherently kind of evil and bad, and sometimes you're going to be an asshole without even realizing it. Sometimes you're going to put yourself first, and that's going to mean someone else is going to suffer. Sometimes you're going to have to manipulate your reality or persuade people to do something that benefits you, and sometimes you're just not even going to be able to control yourself, control your emotions, control your actions. And there are ways to obviously lessen all those things, but to some extent, everybody does that shit. All right, this has been too doomeristic, because I think the majority of people want to do good for other people and want to see the world prosper and want to progress in life, so long as they're living in good conditions. When their needs are met, when they're pretty healthy, I think naturally the person that comes out of you in those conditions is someone that thinks to themselves, I want to do something positive each and every day. I want to progress. I want to help other people. And that says a lot about how much the society we live in, the circumstances dictate how much evil comes out of us. But this is where we got to talk about the internet, the title of this video, social media. Is it because these things exist that we're getting more evil, more depressed, more narcissistic, meaner to each other? Or were these things that always existed within human beings, and now they're just being put on display for everybody to see at all times? The answer is a bit nuanced. It's more nuanced than the title of this video. I couldn't have titled this video something like "The internet / smartphones didn't really make us worse or make us worse people. It kind of just exposed part of human nature." Like, that title's too long. There's not enough conviction. I need to have a sharp, punchy title that gets you to click. And that's another lesson in human nature, is we're more attracted towards conviction in a title, something that seems certain, and something that's more geared toward the negative. That's how we evolved, and that's part of this evil I'm talking about, or the more negative sides of human nature. A lot of it has to do with how we evolved. We evolved to pay attention to more negative things that are stimuli in our environment, because those things usually signaled danger, and our brain prioritizes safety. So naturally, we're going to pay attention to more things that could threaten our safety. But anyways, the answer to what I'm going about here is that there were atrocities happening before the internet. I was already talking about this earlier in the video. There were terrible things human beings were doing every single day, but they weren't being promoted to so many people and to such a degree that they are now. Human nature loves negativity. We are attracted to it. We're attracted to drama. We're attracted to seeing people crash out, doing bad shit, seeing people die. That's why the news promotes it, because they get better ratings, they get more views. That's why people do it on the internet. These are naturally the things that people are most drawn towards. Why? Because part of human nature has that negative entity inherently instilled into it. And so in this way, the internet didn't really make us worse. It didn't make humans worse people. We were already, part of us was already pretty bad. It's just that we now have so many devices which allow us to see every bad thing that is going on in the world, and most things that are highlighted on the internet or get promoted the most, at least, are usually the bad things. So this is part of the nuance. People think, oh, the internet is what's causing humanity to fucking self-destruct, and that's why everything's crap now. Before the internet, everything was so much better. Well, you'd have to define better. Maybe in the sense that we had more community and people were more willing to talk to other people, but bad things were still happening. We just didn't know it as frequently as we do now. But the other side to the nuance that you could argue that makes sense when people say the internet is making us more depressed or anxious or angry or whatever, is that it takes advantage of the most worst parts of human nature, the most evil parts of our personalities. And to that, I would agree. I think when you have something like the internet, where social media especially is designed to promote the things that people are paying attention to the most, that retain an audience for the longest amount of time, and that get the most engagement, well, naturally, you're going to create an ecosystem that has a lot of negative shit. And this is especially true of places like Twitter, where it's just these bite-sized pieces of information where you can't really discern the nuance. And it's just people yelling at each other about what's right and what's wrong. If you spend more time in these spaces, then naturally, yeah, I think you're going to feel like the world is worse than it was in the past, even though it might not really be. And therefore, that's going to affect your habits and actions in real life. And so if enough people are on the internet and enough people's habits and actions are getting affected, then eventually it is going to make society as a whole function worse, because more people on the internet, more people on social media, more people seeing more negative stuff than they should be, than humans ever have. And that's going to be reflected in the way they carry themselves in the world, and how much hope they have, and how much they want to care for other people. And that's what I mean by saying it's kind of just amplifying what's already there within humans. So if you approach it from that way, then you can say the internet is technically making us worse, because the internet is just amplifying the worst parts of humanity that we've done a pretty damn good job at improving upon over the past few hundred years. And I've explained this on a main channel video, that the internet isn't really a mirror. People like to refer to social media as a mirror, like your algorithm is showing you who you are. and it's a great tool for self-reflection. It's a pretty good tool for self-reflection, but usually it's only going to show you the parts of you that maybe you don't want to identify with, because they're kind of the negative parts, and you just can't help yourself when you're in these social media settings. You can't help yourself but look at all the nasty and heinous shit that is going on, and you know it's going to affect your mental health, but you can't stop yourself when you're in that sort of environment. And so it's more like a cracked mirror. Social media, it takes advantage of the human qualities that we would rather ignore or try to emit a little less frequently on a daily basis, because we want to become better people, like anger, lust, grief, loneliness, depression. Like, it just amplifies these things that are already there. So on the one hand, the internet isn't really making us worse. Smartphones aren't really making us worse. They're only exposing the way we have always been, the way human nature works. But on the other hand, they are kind of making us more depressed and anxious, and the statistics obviously show that. But it's not that it's creating something that wasn't already there. It's just amplifying what was already there within humans. And now you're probably thinking, what's the point of this video? Why does that matter, Cole? I don't think this is a reason to start becoming more of a doomer. I really hope not. I hope that's not what you get from this video. I think, first off, just having this sort of awareness, and the sun goes down right when I'm trying to fucking explain this part, as if things are getting dark. I think having this sort of awareness about human nature is important, that everyone is capable of evil. That's the first thing you need to understand from this video, is that no matter what, there's always going to be a part of you that has a bit of lustfulness, has a bit of anger, has a bit of selfishness. And those are things you've got to identify, and identify what brings out the parts of you that you don't want to be brought out as much more. So the internet, social media, it can do that depending on how you use it. Now, it's very easy to get caught up in negativity spiral on social media. If you find it's impossible to not get caught up in that, then obviously you should remove yourself from that environment completely. You should remove yourself from that ecosystem. Whatever ecosystem is clearly bringing out the parts of human nature you don't want to emit as frequently, get the hell out of there, man. Identify that. That's what this awareness brings to you. That's what makes it powerful, is you know now that, okay, I'm capable of being lustful and prideful and egotistic. And what is bringing out those qualities more in me, more than it benefits me? And identifying what those things are, and then removing them from your life, and adding in more of the things that bring out the best qualities in you, is how you become a better person, whatever that means to you. A person that you can be proud of. The version of yourself where you can look at what you're doing and you say, yeah, that's a guy I would hang out with. That's a guy I would trust. That's a guy I would befriend. That's a guy who I would look up to and be proud of. That's why this awareness is important. And the acceptance of some parts of human nature as sort of evilish, that's kind of a dramatic word to use, but I also think my life improved quite a bit once I got to that place of acceptance, instead of trying to reach some utopian version of myself or society and wishing things could be that way and thinking things could be that way. I don't think we'll ever reach a utopia. I don't think you'll ever be perfect, and that's fine. There's always going to be things, terrible atrocities that happen just because we're humans and we are breakable and we have the capacity to die and to do bad to others. Bad things are going to happen always. That doesn't mean we should just fucking say, oh, whatever, to every atrocity that happens. Like, no, we should do something to change it. But just know that those aspects are always going to be there to some extent, that they were there before the internet and smartphones existed, perhaps in some ways even worse than before those things existed. And I hope this video just made you think. I like talking about this stuff. What society could be like in another reality. And that's why I am writing a novel where a 21-year-old develops the ability to see into a parallel reality. He goes through this really tragic loss, changes something in his brain, which you'll figure out by the end of the book, or something close to it. And he develops the ability to see into a parallel reality. And in that reality, there might be some different societal standards and structures that change the way humans interact with each other. I'm about to write that part of the book. I'm about 50,000 words in. And if you want to get updates for that book as I'm writing it, you can subscribe to my Substack, which is linked in the description. And if you want to talk to people about philosophy, psychology, self-improvement, these types of concepts that people in real life might not be interested in, then you can join my self-mastery school, where we meet in a video call every weekend. We discuss what we're working on, the people we're trying to become. We're all just trying to become better versions of ourselves every week in that group. And there's also courses in there to help you understand yourself better. If you want to join that, the link is in the description as well. And that is going to be it.